there, my name is Caitlin Bandy and this is my channel BandysBooks, and today I am here with my January TBR, and keeping me company is my reading buddy Luna. She is still very young, so she might not sit still through this whole entire video, but she's gonna look cute for a little while at least. So my January TBR is going to be a theme of books that I need to clear off of my bookshelf. Everything that's in these stacks was pretty much picked up at the beginning of last year or in 2021. There's one or two exceptions of books that were a little more recent than that, but for the most part, they're all books that have been on my shelf for quite a while. I definitely want to clear some of these off, and I'm actually really excited because I think it's a lot of really good books. Like, based on what I've heard about a lot of these, they're going to be 4 and 5 star reads, I'm sure of it. Why they've sat around for so long, I don't know. It just seems that the months that they've been put in, I haven't prioritized them, but they're all getting prioritized this month. I'm going to clear off as many as possible. So with that being said, let's just jump right into it. I'm going to give you just a really brief description of each one, obviously, because I have a pretty big stack in front of me and I don't want you to be here for 3 hours listening to books descriptions. So the first 3 books I'm going to go over super quick, and that's All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr, The Martian by Andy Weir, and The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. The reason I'm going to over these just really briefly is because they were in my 5-star prediction video. If you want to see that video, look up here, you'll find a link. These were my 3 picks, and if you want to hear any more detail about them, definitely check out that video. After that, I have The Death of Jane Lawrence by Caitlin Starling. This is about a young woman who gets married, and when she gets married, her husband makes her promise to never, ever go to his mansion. One night she gets trapped in a rainstorm, she's hopeless, she has nothing that she can do, and so she knocks on that door and horror awaits her. I picked this up in 2021 for my October spooky season TBR. This was like a really popular book at the time. I actually haven't heard that many reviews of it, so I have no idea what to expect from it, but I love this cover and it's time to get to it. And then I have All's Well by Mona Awad. I picked this up last year as well. Mona Awad is supposed to be a really quirky, kind of sarcastic, dark writer, and that all sounds like something that I'm going to love. This particular book is about a character who I think is either injured or ends up with a chronic illness. I can't remember. She has an injury that leaves her in excruciating pain, and because of her excruciating pain, she's on a plethora of medicines. Those medicines cause a lot of side effects, and she is on the cusp of losing her job as an actor. So I'm looking forward to getting into this. This was also really popular. I remember seeing this on Bookstagram a lot last year. Don't know why I didn't get to it, but now's the time. Then I have The Mountains Sing by Nguyen Phan Ke Mai. I've talked about this book many times last year. It's been on multiple TBRs. I love the cover. I love the topic. I'm really into historical fiction, and this is about the Vietnam War. It follows a family as they try to escape, and I know it's going to be sad. I think that's part of the reason that I've kind of put it off, is because I know it's going to make me feel things, and so I have to be in the right place for that. But I think I'm finally going to get to it this month. And then I have Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. I've read all of Blake Crouch's other books and really enjoyed them. I've been on a really big sci-fi kick, so I'm excited to get into this one. This is about a gentleman who wakes up and is being told that he's a genius when he doesn't remember being a genius. He's got a different life than he remembers. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on, and so we're going to find out why he doesn't remember the life that he's woken up in. And then we have Little Thieves by Margaret Owen. This follows a character named Vanya. Vanya steals the identity of Princess Giselle, and upon stealing Princess Giselle's identity, she's found out, and this is about the repercussions of that. I was gifted this book early 2021. I won it in an Instagram contest, and I don't know why I haven't gotten to it, but here we are. After that, I have The Art of Vanishing. It's a memoir of wanderlust by Laura Smith. So Laura is just about to get married, and she's really struggling with the idea of settling down, kind of getting cold feet. And she finds the story of Barbara Newhall Follett, who was a free-spirited trailblazer who published her first novel at 11, enlisted as a deckhand at 15, and was one of the first women to hike the Appalachian Trail. In December of 1939, she walked out of her apartment on a quiet, tree-lined street, leaving behind a fraying marriage, and vanished without a trace. So this book is about Laura researching this woman, trying to figure out what happened to her, where she disappeared to. This sounds like exactly my cup of tea. I like to think that I'm kind of a free-spirited person that would just disappear on an adventure. So I think I'm gonna really enjoy this. Then I have White Horse by Erica T. Worth. This is probably one of the newest books on my TBR this month. I got this from Book of the Month last year. This is a horror story, indigenous main characters. I think it's set in Colorado. I think the main character, her mother is murdered or disappears somehow, and she's basically trying to figure out what has happened to her, why she disappeared, and that leaves her into kind of a mysterious, dark, horrific sort of a situation. I've heard really good things about that one so far, so I'm very excited about it. Next up, I have Winter Counts by David Heska Wambly-Waden. This is about a local enforcer on the Rosebud Indian Reservation in South Dakota. He finds out that drugs are being brought onto the reservation, and they start to affect his nephew, I believe. And so it becomes personal, and he enlists the help of an ex-girlfriend, sets out to learn where the drugs are coming from and how to make them stop. Really looking forward to this one as well. This has also appeared on my TBR like a couple times last year, and I don't know why I didn't get to it. Just, you know, unfortunately, when I have 20 books to pick from, sometimes one gets pushed. After that, I have Trust Exercises by Susan Choi. I got this in a used bookstore probably in 2021, and it's a National Book Award winner, so I'm really curious. I think it's going to be a good one. It's about two students in an American high school in a drama class that fall in love with each other. They begin dating, and everyone's like playing pranks on them and teasing them. And it says in here that what the reader believes to have happened to David and Sarah and their friends is not entirely true, though it's not false either. It takes until the book's stunning coda for the final piece of the puzzle to fall into place, revealing truths that will resonate long after the final sentence. So very mysterious. I'm curious to see. This sounds almost like it's going to be a romance, but I don't think it is quite a romance. So I'm curious to see where it goes. And then I have this duology, which is Cazadora and Lobizona. Cazadora is huntress, Lobizona is werewolf. These books are by Romina Garber, and I am absolutely obsessed with the covers of them. They're just so stunning. This is a series that's set partially in the United States and partially in Argentina. It's a young girl who is here in the United States. Her family's illegal. She is being hunted by a crime syndicate, and she flees to home in Argentina, and her father's like underground crime community, I guess. And I think that she's going to find out that there's kind of a magical world. My guess is something to do with werewolves. I originally picked up this first book at one of my favorite bookshops in San Diego called Libélula. It's down in Chicano Park. It's an amazing bookstore if you were ever in that area. And they gave me this book, which is the second book in the series, without realizing that it is the second book. And so then I picked up the first book, and I'm really excited to dive into this. This has been sitting on my shelves for a while, and I definitely need to prioritize it. And then I have The Bookshop of Yesterdays by Amy Meyerson. So this one is about a young girl named Miranda who grew up in the stacks of her Uncle Billy's bookshop. Billy disappears when she's like 12, and it's not until later in life that she finds out she's inherited his bookstore. When she goes to take ownership of that bookstore, she finds a mysterious puzzle that he's left for her and clues. And so she is on her way to save Prospero Books and to solve Billy's last scavenger hunt. I've heard really good things about this one. I know a couple different people that I trust have told me this is a pretty solid book. Then we have The Wilderwoman by Ruth Emmy Lang. I know that this was just a recent Book of the Month pick, but I actually received this from Goodreads like 6 or 8 months ago, and I've been meaning to get to it, so we're finally going to get to it this month. This is about Nora Wilder, and she actually ends up disappearing. Two of her daughters, they kind of should have seen it coming. Zadie, one of them, has some sort of psychic abilities that allows her to predict the future, and they start to have some visions that relate back to their mother, and it sends them off on a search to find out what exactly happened to her. I've heard really good things about this one. Then I have Then the Fish Swallowed Him by Amir Ahmadi Aryan. This is about a character named Yunus who is arrested in a crackdown in Iran. He's sent to the famous prison, I think it's called Evin, and he forms a strange relationship with his interrogator. His interrogator obviously controls his entire world, what he is allowed to know about, what he's allowed to do, and it changes his own perception of his life. I think this is going to be really good. I think this is a quieter book. Like, I haven't heard a lot about it. I actually was really drawn to it just because I think it has such a cool cover, and I had never heard of it before, but I'm very interested in it. Then I have The Bone Clocks by David Mitchell. This is a book about a character named Holly. She's 15 years old and her parents have had a fight. She slams the door, she takes off, but she's kind of a sensitive child, so she is once contacted by voices that she only knows as the radio people. She's kind of I guess a lightning rod for like psychic phenomena, and the things that happen to her after storming out of her home at 15 years old are going to affect generations of her family to come, even the ones that haven't been born yet. So this sounds super interesting, kind of like a sci-fi. I'm here for it. I've been on that sci-fi kick, like I've said. Long Bright River by Liz Moore comes after that, and this is, I think, a police drama. So we have two sisters. One's named Casey, and she is a addict living on the street, and then Mickey is her sister, who is a police detective, and they don't really talk. Mickey isn't really like even allowing people in her life to know that she has a sister, especially one that's suffering from addiction, but she does quietly check up on her periodically to make sure that she's alive and doing okay. And then Casey disappears suddenly during a string of crimes that are happening in Mickey's jurisdiction. Mickey ends up risking not only her career, but her life and the safety of her child while trying to find her sister. Heard good things about this. And then I have The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. So I actually did start this in 2022. I read about 300 pages of the book. It's 800 pages long, and I just was kind of struggling with it at the time. There is a lot of different characters and they're in a lot of different places, and I feel like you have to get a lot of setup out of the way before you really get any plot going. So for me, I kind of lost interest in it. Not that it was bad writing, because it was actually quite interesting, like the world building and the characters and everything. It just, like, I felt like I needed to be really focused, and at the time I was trying to read it, I wasn't really focused. So I set it aside, and now I have a goal of finishing this up because it was left over partially unread from 2022. So this will be getting finished soon as well. And our final stack, I have Notes on Your Sudden Disappearance by Allison Espak. I received this last year prior to the book coming out. This is an ARC copy, and I just didn't get to it in time. This is about two sisters, Sally and Kathy, and Kathy begins to date a young boy named Billy. Eventually, Kathy comes to die, and so this book is about Sally thinking about Kathy's life prior to her death, leading up to her death, and after her death. And she wants to, I guess, get to know Billy, not necessarily romantically initially, but I think she thinks that she'll find resolution through getting to know Billy. And I think this is going to be like a love story, sad, heartbreaking, a little bit tragic. I've heard good things about it so far, though. Then I have The Art of Racing in the Rain by Garth Stein. My mom originally gave me this book because my family, as you can see, are all dog lovers. We all have at least one pet, and so any book that's about dogs is going to be an automatic win for us. This one's about Enzo, and he knows he's different from other dogs. I believe this is about the eve of his death and him thinking about all the things that he has learned from his human and from his life, and you know, his conviction that humans are good, and you know, his conviction that Denny, his brother, will become a racing champion. And just, you know, it's supposed to be heartwarming and funny, but also sad. I think, you know, obviously if the dog's dying at the end, it's going to be sad. Who wouldn't cry at the death of a dog? And then we have The Child Finder by Renee Denfeld. I don't know why I haven't gotten to this one. I know I've been saying that a lot, but like this one, it's legit. So The Enchanted by Renee Denfeld is one of my favorite books, and I have a copy of it in French on my bookshelf because I liked it so much. And so I don't know why this one, I keep putting it on my TBR and not getting to it. But this one is about a young girl named Madison Culver who disappeared a couple years back as her family was trying to choose a Christmas tree. So then we have Naomi, who is a private investigator with an uncanny ability to find missing children, primarily because she was once a missing person herself. So her methodical search is going to take her deep into the icy, mysterious forest in the Pacific Northwest, and she's going to try to find out what happened to Madison. I think this is going to be an interesting book. I've heard it's not as good as The Enchanted, but I'm sure it's still going to be good. What are you doing? Did you wake up? Did you wake up? Then we have Tell Me Everything by Erica Krause. This is a story of an investigation. So in 2002, Erica accepts a new contract investigating lawsuits as a private investigator. The role seems perfect for her, but eventually she picks up a case that is about a football team and them having sexually assaulted a young girl. This kind of ties in with Erica's own experiences with sexual abuse, and she becomes really, really attached to this case. Over the next 5 years, she learns everything she can about PI techniques, tracking down witnesses, and investigating a culture of sexual assault and harassment. I know this story was a national scandal, and I think this is all about how the investigation took a toll on her and how she found out what she found out about it. I've heard this one's really good. I think my mom told me this is really good, but I've also heard from other people that it's excellent, even though I know it's going to be really like heartbreaking. And then we have Ill Will by Dan Chown. This is about two brothers. One brother is working as a psychologist, and then his half-brother is released from jail after having been convicted of his murder. So he's convicted for the murder of his parents, his aunt, and his uncle on false testimony, basically. So it's like 1980s. It's during the Satanic Panic, and the psychologist brother had testified with some crazy story that basically indicted this other brother, Rusty, and was part of the reason that he was convicted with very little evidence. So it seems to me that it might be kind of set up for like a revenge story, like a hey, you got me locked up for no reason, and there might be some confrontation involved. And then the last book I have is The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas. This was described to me as a combination between Mexican Gothic and Rebecca. I love Gothic horror stories. I love books set in Mexico. This is post-Mexican independence. So this is a really interesting era in Mexican history. I've traveled a lot through Mexico, and I've spent a lot of time in central Mexico, in a couple of the states where the Mexican independence started, where the revolution started, where there's a lot of history. So for me, it's kind of cool getting to see like the things that I've like learned about in person, like in museums, and seen like all the historical sites like put into a book. So I'm really looking forward to getting into this one. I'm thinking this is going to be a favorite for the month. So those are all of my books for the month. I don't know that I'll get to every single one, but I am going to make my best effort to get to as many as possible. My goal this year is to get through as many of the books that are on my shelf as I can before buying too much more, because we're frankly running out of space at this point. So hopefully we're going to move a lot of books off of my shelf this month. I'm thinking that a lot of these are going to be really, really good. I hope that you've enjoyed this. If you did, hit the thumbs up button. Let me know in the comments what you're reading this month. What's your TBR theme, if you theme it out? Is there a book that you're particularly excited about? Have you read any of these? How did you feel about them? Tell me everything. Just come chat with me about books. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button down below so you can come see Luna again in other videos. And that's it for now. Thanks for joining. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.